Then we'll do
Okay, planning board. We are recording. We are live. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
Go for it. Thank you. We will go for it. Good evening and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Planning Board meeting of October 19th, 2022. This evening, we have three matters on for sub-waiver review and site plan review, one of which is a preliminary review. And we also have one or two possibly matters on for our regular meeting. And we also have public hearings, which are scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. Those three public hearings, the order that we're going to do them is the order as it appears in the agenda. The Daniel Forkin Artist Studio first, the American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hole Road next, and then the Cookery Sinentry site plan will be the third public hearing. We will start those at 7 p.m. as required by the notice. There was a matter on for Board of Review, the Board of Review of Gabriel O. Da Silva, which we are adjourning to November 9th. There was some issues that arose with that, and we feel that it would be better to put that off till some more work is done on that particular one. So we're going to take the order in which we're going to take the site plans are going to be first the 351 Panago Road site plan, then the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum site plan, and then I expect that at that point we will be at or close to the 7 p.m. start time for the public hearings. If we rush through, no, I shouldn't say rush, we don't rush, but if we get through those two site plans quickly, there's a warning to LTV and anyone watching at home, we may have to go dark for about however many minutes it takes to get up to 7 o'clock, because we really cannot start public hearings prior to 7 o'clock. But let's see how much time we consume with the first site sub-waiver review, which is 351 Panago Road. Sharon, that's yours. Mm-hmm. Tina, that's yours. And Will. Yes, and that's Will covering that one. Is the applicant here? Very well. Thank you, sir. Okay, so the way we'll do this is that first Will Highland from the Planning Department will speak. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to be heard, and then we'll have a discussion here up at the podium. Randy is, I'm sorry, not Randy, sorry. I'm so used to you being on. Lou, we have you. Lou, hope all is well over there. Can you hear us?
Yes, I could hear you. Thank you.
Very good. And our member, Ed Krug, is not with us tonight. Take it away, Will.
Okay, this was an application to subdivide the subject parcel situated at the intersection of Panago Road and Spring Close Highway into two individual lots, as you can see on the survey. The property currently contains a commercial bank and a single-family residence. The site is pre-existing and non-conforming with regard to the two uses. The proposed application is to subdivide the property, which would eliminate that pre-existing non-conforming number of uses and create two lots, one with the commercial bank use and one with the single-family residence use. The planning board had most recently reviewed this application at its March 9th, 2022 meeting, and determined that they find the proposed landscaping to be satisfactory and required that the applicant would illustrate the location of the proposed sanitary systems on a revised map. In the interim, after this, the Zoning Board of Appeals also approved 4 variances concerning setbacks, lot area, lot width, and total lot coverage for the application, with the resolution being approved on August 23rd, 2022. The applicant has submitted a revised version of the survey that does depict the locations of the septic systems as installed. The Zoning Board of Appeals had granted the necessary relief in the form of 4 variances for the project. These included variances for minimum lot area, lot width, setbacks, and total lot coverage. The ZBA did require that a revised planting plan that includes additional screening along the proposed property divide be submitted. A revised planning plan dated September 6, 2022, which includes an increase in the number of trees and shrubs, has been submitted. The new plan proposes to increase the number of new trees from 13 to 15 and an increase in the number of new shrubs from 33 to 73. The board should determine if this is adequate. The planning department has prepared an attached environmental assessment form, parts 2 and 3 for the proposed sub-waiver. The planning board should review the document and amend it as necessary. A negative declaration pursuant to secret chapter 120 of the town code is recommended. So in conclusion, the planning board should discuss the revised survey and planting plan and should determine whether the application is complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing.
Thank you very much, Will. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Hello, Dan Weaver, representing the applicant. Thank you, Will, and thank you, board. Basically, we are hoping at this point that we'll be ready to go to public hearing. We did receive, as Will mentioned, variances from the ZBA, and the only change really is the updated planting plan, which is just a beefed up version of what this board already approved. So I should hope there should be no issue there. And basically, we're just hoping that next step is public hearing and we can keep moving forward.
Very well. Thank you very much. Sharon, I think this one's yours.
Yeah. No, I think, they got the needed variances from the zoning board and we had already pretty much, approved the plan. So, the survey now shows the septic systems and adding a few more trees is good with me. So I'm good with the plan that they're proposing.
Very good. Any board members have anything they wish to add on this? Okay, so go ahead.
Question, Tim.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Dave, is that straight, is that the driveway in that? Can't quite see it from here. There's a straight bowling alley kind of into the house. That's gonna be owned by the house lot.
So the darker line, and hopefully I can be here with the microphone, the darker line is actually the water line that services that house.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to see on the screen here, but there's a lighter line right here. That is the current driveway. It's kind of overgrown. That does service the house back there.
It's not much of a driveway.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Lou, anything? No?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So we find the revised survey and planting plan satisfactory all
Yes.
around?
Yes.
And do we agree to a negative declaration?
Yes, do we have a motion that?
I
Yeah.
think we need a motion.
So I make a
on that.
motion to make this a negative declaration.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of negative declaration?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Pass 6-0. And is the application complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
All around? Okay. Eric, do you have any idea when we might have that?
Public hearing.
Yeah, we don't have that tonight, right? We don't have
The notice would be read next week and then
Next week?
3 weeks from that date, so probably November 16th.
okay. Mark that in your calendar.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the site plan evaluation for the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum Storage Building. And that one is marked as well. So we had a typo. Is the applicant here on? I apologize. Didn't see you. Oh, there you are. Good to see you again. Okay.
This is an application for a site plan on behalf of the East Hampton Farm Corporation regarding the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum Storage Building. As you can see on the survey, the applicant is proposing a construction of a storage shed at the rear of the property for storage of additional artifacts belonging to the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum that operates on the property. The applicant is proposing to maintain the existing barn and museum building. The preliminary site plan for this application was reviewed at the planning board meeting on June 8th, 2022, stating that the proposed location of the design and storage shed were acceptable, that a revised survey depicting the water line and sanitary system should be submitted at the time of formal site plan application. The applicant has submitted a revised and more comprehensive version of the survey that does depict the water line and sanitary system, in addition to containing all the information included on the survey for the preliminary site plan. The survey is otherwise unchanged from the preliminary site plan survey in terms of dimensions, lot coverage, and location of the proposed shed, all of which the planning board previously found acceptable. The application will require town board as the subject property is owned by the town of East Hampton. The planning board sent comments to the town board after review of the preliminary site plan. However, the board should discuss whether or not any additional comments should be sent at this time. The application is a very minor site plan, but because the proposed storage shed is still over 500 square feet, pursuant to section 255 of the town code, the planning board cannot waive the public hearing. In conclusion, it appears the application is otherwise complete. However, the board should determine if any other additional information is required at this time. If no additional information is required, then the application will be ready to be scheduled for a public hearing.
Very good. Thank you very much. And does the applicant wish to be heard?
Brian Lester from Carbon and Lester. I have nothing, if there's no questions, I have nothing further. We ask that it be put towards a public hearing if the board so elects and move this forward.
Very good. Thank you. Ian?
Yeah, I think this application is complete. I mean, I don't have much to say. We've talked about it a number of times. I think it's complete and ready for a public hearing.
Does anybody on the board have anything they wish to add with respect to this application?
Just a question about vehicle access. Do you see vehicles coming to load and unload from that storage building?
Now, the storage building primary use is going to be for the carriages that are currently at the property to
Okay.
preserve those carriages. So no, we don't see a routine unloading or loading of the at that storage shed. It's going to be to house those carriages that we have.
And if you need to get to the building with a vehicle,
It's all grass. It's
Yeah.
open grass, so
Yeah.
there's nothing impeding us from driving
okay.
to that spot.
Anyone else? Lou, do you have anything?
No, thanks, Sam.
Okay. All right. Does the board find the proposed location of the storage shed to be sufficient?
Yes.
Does the board find the proposed design of the storage shed to be sufficient?
Mhm.
Yes.
Does the board have any additional comments to be sent to the town board regarding the application?
No.
None? Okay. Do we require any additional information at this point?
Nope.
Is the application complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So, again, Eric, that'll be next week. We'll have the notice on and then 3 weeks from that. Okay, thank you. Okay.
We could do
Looks
this
like we
extension
are-
of time.
I'm sorry?
We could do this.
Yeah,
extension.
we're going to do that and we'll see. You want to read every word of it, maybe we'll might be an appropriate use of our time. Whose is it? Is that yours?
That's why I know.
Real
about it.
slow.
Okay, the matter of the application of Spencer Oaks preliminary subdivision, tax map number 300-182-2-5.1 and 7.1. They are asking for an extension of time, and I move for its approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, 6-0. Don't go running away so fast. I
It's
just
30 seconds.
had an idea. No, Nancy, let me ask you a question. Would it be appropriate for us to read in the notices one after the next, since we do have a considerable synapse of time? Or should we
All
just
three
wait?
public, yeah, I think it might get a little sloppy doing it that way.
All right.
I mean, I know, I see what you're getting
Yeah, I
at,
was,
but
you know. They call it fill in showbiz, but this isn't showbiz. So I think what we're going to have to do, I don't think we have any real choice here. We're going to have to just go dark. Matt? You hear me?
Yes, I would like to ask a question now.
Ask.
For either you or Nancy.
Mhm.
In terms of legality, am I just cutting audio, or do I just put up on the scroll that we're in recess?
Yeah, Nancy, I'll leave it to you.
yeah, I think, I probably would put up on the scroll.
Yeah, what do you put up the official seal of the town or something, and
Well, I would leave the
Yeah,
would
with a
leave the
note or something, you know, with like a.
I would leave the picture up, but I just put a scroll up and say audio is muted, and then obviously just mute the audio.
Okay, so then the,
Seven.
Back at 7 or something?
Can you say that? Can you type that in somehow?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
well, it doesn't need to have.
Reconvene at
15
7?
minutes.
No?
You want, all right, well, yeah, can you put on something on the Chiron that says, meeting will resume with public hearings at 7 PM? Is it, or is that too late?
I will do my best.
If you can. So we're gonna, so anyone clicking on is going to see our smiling faces, but just not hear anything, right?
That would be correct. I just need a motion on that so I can officially do it.
Need a motion? No? Well, okay.
Or some kind of notice to tell me
Correction.
we're done.
Oh, well, we're on recess. We'll call
We're
it.
on recess.
Is that appropriate? All right. I move that the planning board go into recess until 7 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're on recess till 7 PM.
and we should be back on.
Very well. Thank you all. Thank you all for your patience and for waiting through that brief adjournment. We have 3 matters on for public hearing this evening. The first is the Daniel Forkin Artist Studio. The next is the American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hole Road. And the last is the Cookery Sin and Trudy site plan. We'll read in the public hearing notice, on each one. And then we'll confirm with council that jurisdiction's been obtained. Assuming jurisdiction's been obtained, then the planning department will give a brief background of the application. The public will then be granted an opportunity to speak. This is the magic clock that time will be kept, on which time will be kept. 3 minutes to each person. We have, with respect to the American Tower public hearing, a sign-up sheet. Again, if anybody else wishes to speak, please sign up because we have a number of people. I'm going to follow the order as it appears. This sign-up sheet will go into the record of the application. After the last person is listed on the sign-up sheet, I'll see, has an opportunity to speak. I'll see if anybody else wishes to speak or wishes to speak again. And again, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm just going to interrupt and say 30 seconds. And then at 10 seconds to go, with 2 minutes and 50 seconds, I'll say 10 seconds. And then at 3 minutes, I am going to insist that whomever is speaking stops speaking at that point. Again, we have a number of people who want to speak, and we want to be fair to everybody. And then after we're done with the 3 public hearings, we'll resume our agenda. We have another matter on for site plan review, preliminary review. That's the 219-221 Panago Road matter. So this is the public hearing one that Ed was going to do?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Well,
You've got a lot to do. So I'm going to read, and this is the shortest one. So I'm going to read in the public hearing notice on Daniel Forkin Artist Studio. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, October 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of Daniel Forkin Artist Studio approval pursuant to Article 11 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to convert a pre-existing non-conforming approved 600 square foot shed on the property into a personal artist studio. The property contains 17,957 square feet, 0.412 of an acre, and is located at 17 Bayview Avenue, Amagansett, and is situate in an A residence zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel number 300-106-1-18. A survey prepared by Gary Benz, licensed surveyor, dated revised May 10th, 2022, is available for inspection at the Planning Board Office, Suite 103, 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, New York. Written comments may be submitted by mail, email directed to planningboard@ehamptonnewyork.gov, and by mail to 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York 11937, and received on or before the close of business on the day of the public hearing, dated September 14th, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman. Nancy, do we have jurisdiction on this application?
We do, Chair. I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it does appear that there was proper notice.
Thanks very much. I should add also, after the, with regard to the public hearing proceedings, after the public has had an opportunity to speak, then the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any comments made by the public. So this is Eric, who has this one, you or Will? Will background, Will, thanks.
Okay. This was an application that was submitted to convert a pre-existing non-conforming approved shed on a property into a personal artist studio. The applicant is a graphic artist working across a range of mediums, known from custom typography, image making and manipulation, photography, and conceptual pieces. The parcel is located on Bayview Avenue in Amagansett and Zone Day residence. The property is currently improved with the proposed one-story residence under construction and the existing shed. When the application was reviewed by the planning board, they determined that the applicant meets the working artist standard and that the conversion of the existing accessory structure into an artist studio was acceptable. It was requested the applicant submitted a revised survey that reflected the reduction in square footage on the proposed artist studio shed from removing the proposed deck area on the western side of the property. They submitted a revised survey that reflected the reduction in square footage, and the application was approved. The only other thing I think that we should add on this is that there was a resolution planned for tonight for the artist studio. This was because of a clerical error on behalf of the planning department that had delayed the resolution. However, it's my understanding that we received comments from the public regarding this application now, so the board might want to decide whether they should hold off on that resolution.
Yeah, I would think that we should, anybody disagree, please speak up, but I think we should wait for a wrap-up memo from the planning department and then move forward with the resolution. Anybody disagree with that?
Nope.
No? Good? We're good?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Is there any member of the public who wishes to be heard with respect to this application? Yes. Please state and spell your name and your address. And when you start, I'll hit start.
Okay, my name is Joe Karpinski. I live at 14 Bayview Avenue, which is across the street from the home that we were speaking of. In regard to 17 Bayview Avenue, several questions still remain unanswered. I just heard it was a pre-existing non-conforming structure that was a shed. It was a home. It was a home since the 1940s. It was made into a shed. So I want to stop hearing that this is the original shed on the property when it was an original home. If it was original home and transformed into a shed, why wasn't it reconstructed to be 10 feet back from the property line? Because it creates uncertainty if and when we become a town road. The opposite side was shortened. To get any building permits for the property, he would have had to give his road widening easement, which would have been possibly given to him when he had bought the home from the previous homeowner. Sarcastically, I say under town code, a shed would been made to be from the front, would have been made to go back 30 feet from the property. We didn't get a public hearing with the ZBA where I would have brought these things up then. Instead, after 20 days, they said nobody made a comment, so they stuck it into administrative and did it under other decisions. I would have came to that public meeting. I didn't know I had to actually reply by mail. So if it's going to be made into an artist studio, I'd have to wonder what it actually is today. I wouldn't consider it a shed or a garden shed under town code. I also wonder if the basement was removed from the property that's underneath. Also, it can't be moving forward until we get a proper CO on the property. Certificate of occupancy under town code should be presented to you first before you even can make it into an artist studio. The road needs to be improved by Mr. Forkin then to get his proper C of O. I've already discussed this with the town consulting engineer. Currently, he does not have any assignments for him. If he does have a CO, I would question that this CO was given to him in error, and it's not a proper CO currently since the road has not been paved or improved at all by Mr. Forkin, which also will come into question. I know you guys were going to have something about the UR map tonight, which I've sent comments in, which I've sent to the town board to relook at that property since they're going to be buying and purchasing 96, which would be their 5th property on the block. And also we should re-amend what's going to happen since the next portion would be tidal marshland. There may be other outstanding issues with the property, but I feel reluctant to even speak on them as already in my opinion, I've been threatened by the head of code enforcement by email when Kevin Cooper has told me to cease speaking about the East Hampton town government and any matters relating to his department, though I would really raise the question of any selective enforcement on this road currently.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I will just mention in regards to vegetation, it seems that bamboo has been planted on the property. It appears to be running bamboo. And in my opinion, that's still an invasive species in New York and should be removed immediately. But that's just my opinion. I don't know what the town actually will do on that. I remander any time back to you if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.
10 seconds and thank you. Okay. Are there any other members of the public who wish to be heard on this application? Okay, hearing none, I move that the public hearing be closed. Is there a second?
About the applicant to speak?
Oh, I apologize, my error. Thank you for reminding me.
if he
Does
wants
the
to.
applicant wish to be heard? Sure. All right. I apologize. And again, you'll have 3 minutes. Your name, spell it, and address.
My name is Daniel Forkin, Forkin. I am the owner of the property. Trying to understand what Joe's issues are. There is a C of O in my home. I moved in this spring, and the pre-existing non-conforming structure is on the approved survey with the CO of the home. So there's nothing we can do. It's already grandfathered in. When I was here in the spring, I was speaking with you guys. You said I can already do it as I like in the space. The only thing that we're doing now is adding a slop sink so I can work more efficiently. That's all we're trying to achieve. I don't know why Joe has an issue with me having a slop sink in my artist studio so that I can work faster. But I hope that you guys understand that I am a self-made, successful artist, and this is my profession. So now he is holding up my career. That's all I really have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Now, with that. No. And we're going to go back and forth. And you yielded it back. So, okay. All right. I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We can still have written comment.
No, written comments are closed.
Oh, this doesn't.
Written comments.
Oh, that's just during.
That was during COVID.
Okay.
All right. So I move that the public hearing be closed.
I seconded it.
Is there all those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We also have a letter from Mr. Karpinski, I guess.
Well, it'll be
in the record.
Let's get the vote too.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's in the.
Yeah, he mentioned. You did mention that there was a. Did you mention there was a letter?
Yes.
Sorry, we're not. I'm talking to staff. Sorry.
We did not, but yes, there is a letter.
Okay.
A letter was formally submitted to the public record, so that'll be part of your deliberations when you decide the application.
Very good. Okay, I know that we should mention that. Okay, let me do the motion again. I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Is all those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Lou. Sorry about that. I know I keep putting you on the spot. 6-0 passed. Okay, we are now going to move on to the public hearing on American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hole Road.
Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard. To consider the application of American Tower at 103 Flaggy Hole Road, site plan special permit, personal wireless facility, to construct a new personal wireless service facility, PWSF, consisting of 185-foot tall monopole and 70-foot by 70-foot, 4,900 square foot fenced-in leased equipment compound area.
Yeah.
The monopole and equipment area are to replace a 60-foot tall monopole carrying Verizon equipment and to expand an existing fenced-in compound area. The new monopole is to be designed to accommodate equipment for the town of East Hampton's emergency service equipment upgrades, as well as for 4 of the major cell phone carriers. The property is over 172 acres, is located off Flaggy Hole Road and 3 Mile Harbor Hog Creek Road, Springs, and is situated in a A5 resident zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton and is identified as Suffolk County tax map as parcel number 300-37-2-1. Subject application is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A booklet containing Exhibit A-ATC, Proposed Emergency Backup Generator, specifications prepared by Generac Industrial Power. Exhibit B, Noise Assessment Report for ATC's Emergency Backup Generator dated July 27th. 2022. Exhibit C, data regarding the town's need for a personal tower, height of 185 AGL. Exhibit D-FAA, no hazard to air navigation determination. Exhibit E-SHPO's email concurrence that the proposed replacement facility will not impact historical resources dated May 23rd, 2022. Exhibit F, structural calculations and foundation design prepared by Valmont Structures dated June 22nd, 2022, and signed and sealed by Matthew K. Lackey, PE. Exhibit G, updated NIER study report prepared by Tower Engineering Professionals, TEP, Inc., dated July 14th, 2022. And Exhibit H, drop and swap construction drawings prepared by AT Engineering Services, PLLC, dated June 17th, 2022, and signed and sealed by Patrick Philip Berry, PE. Sheet G-001, title sheet. Sheet G-002, general notes. Sheet V-101, as-built title and boundary plan. Sheet V-102, existing conditions and topography plan. Sheet C-101, overall site plan. Sheet C-401, compound plan. Sheet C-402, tower elevations. Sheet C-501, construction details. Sheet C-502, construction details. Sheet C-503, signage. Sheet E-401, grounding layout. Sheet E-501, electrical details. And sheet E-601, electrical one-line diagram, is available for inspection at the Planning Board Office, 300 Panago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, dated September 21st, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Ian. Do we have jurisdiction on this public hearing?
Yes, we do, Chair. Once again, I reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it does appear that it was properly noticed.
Very good. Eric, some background, please.
Actually, can I ask LTV? I don't know if this is possible, but can you have the share screen on the north screen? Right now, we see the split screen on the north screen that the public can see. I'd just like to have the visuals.
Okay. On that north screen, that should have been logged in from Zoom.
Okay.
If you can try and power the north screen down and power it back up and then log into Zoom.
Okay, I'll do that during the. Okay, I'll try to do that during the course of the public hearing. Basically, the public hearing notice explains the project pretty thoroughly. This is a proposal for a new 185-foot tall monopole, as well as a roughly 5,000 square foot fenced-in equipment area. This would replace an existing 60-foot tall monopole that carries only Verizon equipment. The new monopole is proposed to have emergency services communications equipment for the town of East Hampton, as well as it also has availability for all 4 major carriers. And basically, most people know where this property is, and I apologize that the audience can't see this. It's on that big screen there, but you can see very small in the top left-hand corner. The property is situated in northwestern Springs. Again, the lot's over 172 acres and is zoned A5 residence. For the purposes of this public hearing, I have visuals, the complete set of information that was provided by the applicants. I will stop screen sharing for a second, just so I can put up the tower elevation. And so as you come and speak, you'll see the visuals more clearly on this screen. But if any member of the public needs help with any of the documents that were submitted, coverage maps, tower elevations, equipment compound details, I'll be right here. Just ask me and I'll provide that for you. And I'll try to get the visual up on that screen for everybody's benefit. I don't want to pull any wires or anything.
Pull a wire, we'll go blank. All right. Once again, is 3 minutes to each applicant, and at the conclusion, we have I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you. Each member of the public, and then at the conclusion, the applicant or applicant's representatives or anybody from the town who may need to speak in response will have an opportunity to do that. The first person on the list is Craig Van Sickle.
And just for the board's information, we do have one caller on the line holding.
What's when we're done with the public, I'll ask that name. That may be the representative,
Maybe.
yeah, from Cityscape. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Craig Van Sickle,
We need to spell it and your address.
Krae, capital VAN, capital SICKLE, 51 Talmadge Farm Lane. So I enthusiastically support this proposed cell tower in Camp Blue Bay. I think you guys deserve a lot of credit for resolving a emergency service and cell service tower in an area that is not over the heads of a bunch of town residents. I'm not sure if this has actually been done, but if so, has there been a reduction in the fall zone?
Just to clarify, we don't respond to questions during the public hearing.
Okay. Well, so if the fall zone criteria for cell towers has been reduced, that is sort of amazing to me. My neighbor, Jonathan Colvin, has a link to a document that I'll send to you guys. With which, if it has been reduced, this document will give you indigestion because it shows dozens and dozens of cases of failed cell towers that have fallen down, blown up, caught fire, and there's lots and lots of case studies of that. That would be disastrous if it was in a residential neighborhood. If, however, the town is ever to consider allowing cell towers in residential neighborhoods, then the town should make sure that the towers are located over the people's heads who are so vocal about wanting them, and not put them over the people's heads in the town, in the view sheds of the people in the neighborhoods who do not want them. Again, if you're going to allow it to be done in a residential neighborhood, then allow it to be done for the people who are desirous of these things. Once the threshold is crossed to allow towers in residential neighborhoods, then it should not be mob rule that determines where they are located. Obviously, I'm talking about the effort to locate a tower at the Springs Fireplace site. The advocates for more cell towers should walk the talk and organize their neighborhoods and their neighbors and petition the town to put an easement over their own backyards to allow these cell towers, and not force them on somebody else. Let's not put up with that kind of hypocrisy. No double standards, please. Like, I want a cell tower, but not over my head. I want it over yours.
30 seconds.
The Crandall Street site was and if it was unsuitable for a cell tower, then the Springs Fireplace site is far less suitable. It is closer to more residents. It's the visual is more obtrusive, and it's in a scenic and historic designated.
10 seconds.
If there's need for more coverage, it should be sited in places that are further away from where the cell tower is in Blue Bay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next is Jonathan Colvin. And again, sir, please spell your name and provide your address.
My name is Jonathan Colvin, Jonathan. Last name Cov as in Victory, En.
And your address, sir.
44 Talmadge Farm Lane. Before you start the clock, I just have a question. I thought that this was to talk about Camp Blue Bay, not about the proposed tower at Springs.
You're correct.
Springs Fire Department.
You are correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
So will there be an opportunity to talk about the proposed relocation of the fire district's current illegal cell tower later this evening?
Sir, the application, this public hearing will be as stated in the public hearing notice, which was read in its entirety. And we should not be answering questions.
Well, we can say that it's about the case.
But to clarify your question about Camp Blue Bay.
Okay, so I echo Craig Van Sickle's approval and applauding of the planning board in pursuing what seems to be an ideal solution. Last night, I attended the meeting chaired by Manny Villar at the Springs Firehouse, and they described a process going forward by which they felt confident that they would be able to erect a 150-foot tower in the middle of the lot, primarily because they claim that yesterday the town approved cutting the fall zone from 2 times the height of the tower to 1 time the height of the tower. And as a result, the 13 homes surrounding the Springs Fire Department, which are in the fall zone today, where the fall zone is 2 times the height of the tower, now magically no homes are within that fall zone. I feel that changing what is a national building code for the purpose of allowing the fire department to gerrymander this tower that they built illegally is cynical, counterproductive.
30 seconds, sir.
30 seconds? And I ask only one thing of this board, and that is that they uphold the law of the town of East Hampton and apply every single requirement under the town code for the review of telecommunications tower. May all those things be applied to the proposal to put a cell tower in the Springs Fire District location.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Next is Craig Sands. And just so you're clear, I'm hitting start after you've spelled your name and given your address.
Sure. It's Craig Sands, CraigSands, 46 Runnymede. I am telecommunications expert. I've been in the business for about 20 years. I'm also a resident of East Hampton in the Springs. I find that there is a grave need for cell service. I also find that, and I'm also a former ATC, American Tower employee. There is also there's a statute that allows emergency service to erect telecommunications towers on their property. So I haven't been here long enough to figure out or understand what the issue is with the fireplace or the fire department's tower. But from what I understand, it's up and it's not going anywhere. Maybe it'll be relocated to a different point on the property. So to erect another tower probably doesn't make much sense when there's an existing tower, which I understand might already have telecommunications equipment on it for the fire department. Why not just add a few more antennas and give the propagation and the service and the coverage that we need here? There is also other technology that's available. There's small cell technology, and there's outdoor distributed antenna systems that can also be used to gain radio signal. So I find that from the two people that have spoken, it seems that they live closer to the fire department and they are against it. I actually live closer to Blue Bay, and I would not be against having it at Blue Bay. But I think that there really should be more of a push to just look at the existing structure that's there and figure out a way to make it work. How much time do I have left?
A minute and 15 seconds.
Okay. Can I reserve that for a response?
What I'm going to do is after everybody speaks, if you want to have another shot at it, you'll get a whole 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Michael Green.
Michael Green, Green, 57 Camberley Road.
Go ahead.
I'm only here for supporting that the current application that is for the 180-foot tower be amended to, or be allowed to be amended for a 150-foot tower. That's, well, the only reason why I'm here. That's why many of the people are here. And we just wanted you to know that we're looking for that to be done.
At Camp Blue Bay.
No, fire district.
Okay.
You want me to be more clear?
No, it's just there's confusion. This is not a hearing on the fire department tower.
Nothing to do with it, yeah. It's our understanding, right. We just wanted the planning board to be aware that the majority of people that have been at these meetings in the Springs, which I believe you're aware of, are in favor of, since the code has been changed, the allowance of an amended application, not a new application, for the tower that is in existence to be moved to a central location on that site at 150 feet. We're looking to make this process go as fast as possible. As you know, it's been held up for many, many years. As you also probably know, there is an emergent need for cell service right now in the Springs, and that's been held back for many, many years. And right now, there are certain instances of emergencies that occur where people can't call out on their cell phones. So Blue Bay is not going to solve the total problem. That's our understanding in the Springs. It's probably going to need 3 towers. So as the gentleman just said, there's already an existing structure. We're looking to move that to a central location so the fall line is permissible. And we were looking to do that as emergently as possible. And so we're going to be asking for the current application to be amended so that that application for the 180-foot tower that's in right now can be used to move as expeditiously as possible to get this thing going. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Aaron Warkov.
Hello, my name is Aaron Warkov. That's AARONWARKOV as in Victor.
And your address, sir?
163 Old Stone Highway.
Okay, go right.
So we all know that there's just a gigantic need for cell phone coverage up there. You just cannot use your phone anywhere. Everybody's talked about it. The school can't make calls. You know, there's kids there. I think we've all heard this over and over again. I am in support of the Camp Blue Bay 185-foot tower. I think that's great. You guys are doing something. We're moving the ball forward. But it's also my understanding that even if this gets fast-tracked as fast as possible and is erected, that there will be shortcomings in Springs as far as cell phone coverage still. And it's also my understanding, even with the fall zone being halved to now just 1 time the height, there are not very many suitable locations that I was at the meeting yesterday and I asked the person from the private tower company are there any other locations for the future that can be implemented around? And she said the only places that could possibly, they could be put up is on commercial property. And I said, have you done any looking to see whether there are other sites that fit the bill? And she said, no, there aren't any. And I was kind of surprised to hear that from somebody who's trying to make a buck and trying to get these things put up, and implemented. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that yay on the 180-foot tower, but it's not going to be the end all result that we need to complete the whole cell coverage area. So as he was saying, there are small cellular devices that can be implemented. It's not as big a money-making situation for the telcos and things like this to put those in as it is to put up a big tower, but they do exist. There are companies out there right now. They're very minimal. They're about this size, like this. They can be mounted on existing telephone poles. They can be mounted in out-of-the-way places. They can be aimed strategically, and they can make a mesh network of radio signal, cellular coverage that would work. And I think that's something that you're going to have to look at as you go forward, because these poles.
30 seconds.
Great, I'll finish in 30 seconds. These poles are going to be really like hard won, I'm sure, because nobody wants these giant things in their backyards. But these small cell radio devices are the answer to this mesh network, can be implemented, should be really looked at. And I think they'll
10 seconds.
So great. They'll check off everything and probably be the answer in the end, because that technology is moving forward and is here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Deanna Shen.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I'm Deanna Shen, Deanna. Shen is spelled Shenn, and I'm at 13 Glade Road. I've been a resident of Springs since 2000, and I'm aware that this conversation has been going on a very long time. I would like to say that I support the comments of the last two gentlemen that just spoke. I was also at the meeting yesterday at the fire department to talk about the new developments, which I was glad to hear that the fall zone has been reduced to single height, which makes things seem like they could move a little faster. And I think everyone is anxious since the initial application for the Springs Fireplace Tower was submitted in 2019, and we're still standing here today fighting about it. So knowing that the fall zone has been updated and that we can move that tower to another spot on the property, our hope is for that to be speedily addressed. As for the Blue Bay Tower, I support that. I don't actually know that much about it. And to the gentleman's point before, Aaron, the repeater devices that he's mentioning that may help bring better coverage to a wider area. We know we still need those two towers, but perhaps because there's no commercial property in which we can erect additional towers, we should seriously consider adding those repeaters as part of the solution to give adequate cell service to all of the residents that need them for their health, for their safety, for basic communications. We all rely on cell service now. It's just part of our regular life. And to not have that in a reliable fashion in adequate coverage is just, it's unacceptable. So I don't really understand what the holdups have been, because I haven't followed it that closely, but it's also difficult for us to know if we can't ask you questions and we can't get answers, we don't quite know where things stand. And following a lot of the code of the town and all of those sorts of things as they affect our daily lives and access to adequate coverage is really hard to do. So I don't quite understand what we're looking at in terms of timing and how we get answers to you about our concerns. Is there any way you could shed some light on that for us?
Yeah, well, you have 30 seconds. Let you know that.
Okay.
And if you have,
I'm going to hold on to that.
okay. Well, I'll be giving you the opportunity to speak again if you'd like after everyone else has spoken.
Okay. So is there a vehicle to?
That I'll discuss
Okay.
everything after
Cool.
everybody finishes.
All right.
Do you have nothing else for now?
That's it.
Very well. Thank you. Okay. Finally, on the list, I have Peter Ross. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak who hasn't signed up? If you just give me your name, ma'am.
Lauren.
Yes. All right. After Mr. Ross, then. Peter Ross?
Peter is Peter, Ross is Ross.
Can you
27 Deep Six.
I'm sorry?
27 Deep Six Drive. I love the idea of putting the repeaters for cell phones on these old-fashioned things called telephone poles. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. I'm also enthusiastic about the new 185-foot tower, just to be on record. And I noticed that there isn't anybody here tonight who isn't. Most of what I would say has already been said, so I'll just add in the form of acknowledgement that I was here for the working session a month ago, and I heard you folks talking about timing, and what was mentioned was a desire to have it up before Memorial Day of next year. And I understand you're not going to respond to this tonight, but that's what I heard a month ago, and I was really enthusiastic about that idea because you couldn't make a phone call out of my house this summer. As soon as July 4th hit, that was it. The other thing that might be useful is to consider the fact that we hear discussion of emergency services network and cell network, and it almost sounds as though they're two different things. And as my experience, they're not two different things. I've worked in emergency services on ski slopes. The cell network is what's responsible for announcing problems. In the city, the cell network is what calls the police, what calls the fire department. Without a cell network, you only have half of an emergency network. I heard a conversation out in the hall here before talking about, well, the police and the fire can talk on satellite phones. They can blow. The conversation that needs to take place is a conversation, obviously, that is not only among the emergency service providers, the responders, and also the people who need the services. That's what I got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bolger. Need your name, spell it, and your address.
Okay. My name is Loring Bolger, LORING BOLGER. I live at 147 Neck Path. I'm in 100% agreement with going forward with the towers at Camp Blue Bay, particularly the emergency communication element to this, because with that there, it allows other venues that might want to apply for service to drastically reduce what they have already applied for and just apply for cellular service. And it seems to me, living as I do in Eastern Springs, and I may be mistaken, I don't think I am, that we need multiple towers for cellular service, not for emergency communications, but cellular service. So if we can put the emergency in one place, reduce the height and also the need for antennas on other towers, this might make them more acceptable to people living in the area. Because as I understand it, people in Eastern Springs will not benefit from the services aside from emergency at Camp Blue Bay. We're just too far east. So I hope that you will be receptive to the future applications for cellular service that will help us in Eastern Springs to have the service that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else who has not yet had an opportunity to speak wish to speak? If after that gentleman speaks, you're certainly welcome to.
My name is Nigel Noble, Nigel Noble. I live at 816 Accabonac Road, not far from Miss Bolger. An inch or few closer to Blue Bay, but still out of the range. I'm 80 years old. I intend to live in this town for the rest of my life. A month ago, I got a phone call saying I had to take a video call from a specialist in Stony Brook Hospital. Appointment was set up. The call comes in, and he can't see me, I can't see him. And the video was very important. And he announced that the signal was too weak. Well, I would like to continue to live in this town and stay alive here. Maybe you could hurry up and deal with this problem.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Ma'am, would you like to speak?
Karen Pardini, Pardini, 26 Copices Lane. And this is a cry for help. Now and yesterday, 5 years ago, 100 years ago. Me, myself, and I, people that don't want anything in their backyards, maybe they should move to the Sahara. Although I just met a man that got a phone call in the Sahara. the other day. So this isn't a cry for a necessity of today. And I second Nigel. I hope to continue to live here and get the support services that we all need and deserve now. Cry for help. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Okay. Just to clarify again, as a public, sorry, you wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Lawrence Mayer, Lawrenceemayer. I'm at 144 Talmadge Farm Lane. I simply want to add that I doubt that there's anyone in this town that does not have cable TV. And if we accept that premise, they are amply suited to have wireless connectivity for their cell phone. Now, that doesn't give you coverage out on the street somewhere on a remote road, but probably every single house in Springs has a TV set. You can't get TV without an internet connection. And if you have an internet connection, you have phone service for your wireless.
But please, only the
Then go
person
through your satellite.
who's speaking. Only the person who's speaking, and please direct your comments to the board.
All right. So maybe there's a couple. So we'll give them a little mesh network. But to erect these towers under the guise that people don't have cell service, they don't have this or that, emergencies, every home, virtually every home has access to telecommunications, okay? The issues around this thing on the former cell tower was really one of financial reward, and I think we'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. Again, does anybody else wish to be heard?
My name is Ira Barocas. That's IRA. Last name Barocas, Bravo Alpha Romeo, Oscar Charlie, Alpha Sierra. I worked 40 years at sea. I have a global
address.
Your
address. Your address.
Address is 16, everybody knows where I live, 16 Babes Lane. Anyway, I have a global marine distress and safety license. I've had it for as long as I've been a ship captain. My license retired after 40 years. I had a ham radio tower in my backyard when I bought the property, which I waited 20 years for it to come on the market. And I don't own a television. I do watch things on a computer. I have internet. And speaking to the cell companies, they suggested, look, you can buy a cell amplifier, put it in your house, and so forth, which I did. And they refunded it in terms of my cell service. And I could pretty much make phone calls over the internet, as Larry described. I wouldn't mind putting my tower back up behind the house, frankly. But I would use it for like maybe a wind thing or something like that. I don't need it for cell. The truth, though, is that this process has gone on for a really long time. And I know when I come out Babes Lane, I make a left on Squaw, I make a right on 3 Mile Harbor Road. Within 15 seconds, I have no service of anything until I'm well past the Round Swamp Farm. So if I'm on the phone, I tell people, listen, I got to call you back or you call me back. This process has gone on extremely long, as we all know. And we've all been victimized by it one way or another. So I urge you to do this as quickly as you possibly can. And I thank all my neighbors and friends for showing up for this. It really is important, particularly Nigel. You know, I'd like to live here the rest of my life also. And I've had video calls with doctors and so forth. So thanks for your help.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard during this public hearing? Okay. And just to clarify, it is a public hearing that is an opportunity after the after the application process has been completed. That's the wrong word, but after we have a full record, gives you the opportunity to give the board your opinion. It isn't an opportunity to have back and forth with the board, because the board has gone back and forth with the applicant and with experts. And once that entire process is completed, then we wish to hear from the public. And then the planning department will prepare a memo describing, summarizing the comments of the public. And then, again, in public, this board will discuss the application and the comments. And the entire process is governed by law. Mostly it's the State Environmental Quality Review Act and other related laws that mandate that a public hearing is an opportunity for you to speak to us. And it's not a back and forth, not an informational session for the public. All the documents that have been submitted by the applicant, by people who oppose the application, by the experts that are hired, by any town officers that wish to contribute, is all available. It's all at 300 Panago Road. And you're free to see and understand why the application is in the position that it's in. Why is it a X number of feet tall tower? Why is it located on this particular part of the parcel? All the issues that you might have are addressed in public documents. This is intended to be a transparent public process, and we as a board do our best to keep it that way. So we thank you for coming out tonight and for giving us your opinions and your analysis, and it will be taken into consideration. Does the applicant wish to have any comments in response?
Just a friendly reminder, we do have a couple of callers holding.
They're not here for the purpose of speaking at the public hearing. That has to be done here, but it may be representatives from the applicant. Can you get should we get the names?
Yes.
Matt, if you can find out who it is.
Of the public, or
I'm sorry?
And determine if they're members of the public.
Right. If it's members of the public, I'm afraid that, post-COVID, we don't take comments over the phone, but if it's part of the applicant's presentation, that we can do. So, Matt, if you can find out who it is.
Okay. Let's see. Well, excuse me. Last four, goodness gracious. Last four digits of first caller will be 8764.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is David Buda. I was under the impression that the procedures for tonight's hearing did include telephonic participation. If I am mistaken.
Yeah, that would be an error, Mr. Buda. Okay.
Okay, well, I was misinformed.
All right, thank you. All right, Matt, anybody else?
We have one additional caller, and I will unmute that number right now. Last four digits, 2677.
Hi, good evening, Chair Kramer and members of the board. This is Tina Piette, P-I-E-T-T-E. I just want to let you know that I did get a notice about this hearing this evening, and I understand. Yes.
Ms. Piette, subsequent to COVID, we don't do public hearings over the phone. So
let me just inform everyone. That's okay. Let me just inform everyone.
The public hearing. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, planning board at East Hampton, New York .gov does not take comments.
Matt.
Excuse me, planning board at East Hampton, New York .gov does not take comments. Okay? So if I was supposed to send a meeting.
We're not taking comments from the public on the public hearing. I'm sorry.
This email
Okay, so I will mute them, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Holy. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we
That's
haven't
crazy.
noticed. We haven't noticed. Council, please correct me if I'm incorrect. All right? We have a public notice that went out, and that described how public notice was to be made at this public hearing. Am I correct on that?
Right, post-COVID, that's the way we've been doing it.
That's the way it is. So
It's in person only.
it's in person only. That is how it was read in, and that's the policy post-COVID, and that's the way it's been. The applicant, please. And again, 3 minutes. I'll let you know when you're 30 seconds to go and 10 seconds to go.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Christopher Fisher with the firm of Cuddy and Fader. Happy to be here this evening. I've been practicing doing telecommunications infrastructure for 28 years. It's not often I come to a hearing on an application where I hear overwhelming support for an application. So I'm not sure there's much for me to respond to, but I thought that I could provide a little bit of context. We've been working closely with obviously the town on the emergency services aspect of this application. Their need for particular infrastructure is what's driving the overall height at 185 feet. We've worked closely to make sure that the tower accommodates all of their needs. This is for police, fire, and other municipal purposes. The tower project also includes AT&T, which is a little bit of a hybrid. AT&T provides FirstNet services, which are interoperable public safety services to the first responder community, as well as commercial wireless services. And then on this particular site, we also have T-Mobile, Dish, and then Verizon will also be locating. So it's a unique opportunity in order to provide basically the full universe of communications needs in this particular area for purposes of both public safety and commercial wireless. On some of the comments, just related to some of the alternative technologies that our industry, not so much the public safety. So the town and FirstNet would not necessarily be looking at small cells or DAS. That's not really an effective solution. But in these macro coverage environments where you need a tower, this is really a project that meets the need. In some of the other areas of whether it's New York or even East Hampton, small cells and ODAS, which for functional purposes is putting an antenna on a utility pole. As the board knows, there have been other applications in very select areas where you usually have a capacity problem, a really dense area of the community, something where you're looking to just fill in a little bit of a problem in a coverage gap. And we've actually used those as an industry in East Hampton. So I'm happy to hear that folks are asking about that. We're using that technology where it makes sense. This particular site is an excellent site. Having looked at a number of different tower sites over my career, an over 170 acre parcel of property, well-treed with a tower setback that it can accomplish all these particular communications needs and comply with your town code is really a unique opportunity. So on behalf of American Tower, really pleased to present the project and thank you and the staff for all of your work and help in moving this application forward.
Thank you. Okay. With that,
motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Lou? I
Lou
can't see.
seems to be, he seems to be muted and is not showing his video right now.
Well, we'll mark it as.
Aye.
There we go. All right, Lou. Is that a yay?
Yay.
Yay. Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing is closed. All right. Oh, yeah, I did. And, but I asked if anybody else wished to speak who hadn't had an opportunity and, all right. Well, all right. In that case.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing if that's okay, Nancy.
Yeah, you can.
All right, so moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor of reopening the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, right ahead. So I apologize for overseeing that, for the oversight.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it. So
also reset your name.
Yeah, Craig Sands, SANDS, 46 Runnymede. I have been in telecommunications business for a long time. Also a former ATC employee. I also owned 4 towers in Montauk at one point, and I'm very familiar with everything related to ODAS, small cell, towers. And I do want to say that I am not opposed to Blue Bay, but there should be more focus. And the only reason why the Blue Bay Tower is being proposed, it's because there has been a lot of pushback for the tower that's at the fire department. All right. And I'm assuming that's all not in my backyard type of situation, whether it's an illegal or not, or legal type of structure. It's there. It's probably not going away. So why wouldn't we let the fire department, Springs Fire Department, benefit from any rent that they would receive on that tower, as opposed to Girl Scouts of America, who I'm sure could use the money, but I'm sure that Springs Fire Department could use the money a little bit more. Another question that I would have, which I thought I would be able to deal with the respondent, is propagation issues. So the propagation of this tower, it's going to give us signal, but there's a big differential between summer propagation and winter propagation. And when that foliage comes in the spring, that cell coverage diminishes drastically. So I heard some residents talk about whether they're going to get coverage on the other side of the springs. I don't know if any of that has been addressed, but I certainly want to bring it out and open so people are aware of it. That's really it. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate your patience on that. Okay, does the applicant wish to respond?
Just a couple of brief remarks. In the planning board's files, there are a number of propagation maps from all four carriers and information from the town as far as the emergency communications coverage areas. This particular tower site, at its height as proposed, is really as high as we can go and get as much coverage out of the site as we can, beyond which, if we went higher, you'd have to put a light on it for FAA purposes. So I think for all practical purposes, giving community impacts and looking at lighting and marking, this is as tall as this tower can get. And it maximizes coverage. If there are a few little areas that are not particularly served, that's something that we, as an industry, typically would look at later, but this site does a great job. And I think that's something that your own engineering firm, Cityscape, looked at and evaluated and concurred with, that the site does an excellent job of serving the community. So we're very confident in the project. The site actually has as you know, a prior history with the board in 2010 being approved. So we functionally look at this as an amended special permit site plan, even though it's all new, to take down the old tower, put up the new one, and meet the needs of these multiple carriers in public safety.
Thank you. Thank you. With that,
motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second. You want to ask if there's anybody?
No. Because
Okay.
What?
No, I mean.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard? Hearing none.
Yeah, motion, so moved. Motion on the floor to close the hearing.
Is there a second? All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Lou? There.
Aye.
Beat me to it. Passed 6-0. The hearing is closed. Thank you again, all of you, for coming out.
Can I read the next one?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter this matter may be heard. To consider the application of the cookery.
Folks! Hello? Could you take it outside? And by outside, I mean outside, because we can hear you in the hallway. Thank you. Appreciate it.
To consider the application of the cookery, Sin and Trudy site plan approval pursuant to Article 6 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to make alterations to an existing structure in order to accommodate the existing on-site bakery and marketplace, as well as the addition of a rear awning, side trellis, outdoor seating, dumpster, parking, and a detached garage. In addition to the existing two-story residence on site, the proposed garage will serve as parking for the residents. The property contains 19,380 square feet, 0.445 acres, and is located on the west side of Springs Fireplace Road, East Hampton, and is situate in the B resident zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton. It is identified on the Suffolk County Tax Map as parcel number 300-162-12.1. Subject application is classified as a type 2 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A site plan prepared by George Walbridge Surveyors, PC, dated revised August 3rd, 2022. And a set of plans prepared by Norman C. Locke, PE, dated revised August 24th, 2022, including site plan, A-1, elevations, A-2, first floor plan, A-3, foundation plan, roof framing plan section, A-4, elevation and elevations, A-5, are available for inspection at the Town Planning Board Office, Suite 103, 300 Panago Place, East Hampton, New York, dated September 28th, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you. Council, do we have jurisdiction?
Yes, we do, Chair. I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and again, it does seem like this is, it does appear to be properly noticed.
Thank you. Will, brief background on the application.
This was an application to make alterations to an existing structure in order to accommodate an existing on-site bakery and marketplace, as well as the addition of a rear awning, side trellis, outdoor seating, dumpster, parking, and attached garage. In addition to the existing one-story bakery, there is also an existing two-story residence on the site. Both structures were erected prior to the adoption of current zoning, and the site also has pre-existing non-conforming clearing and lot coverage from prior to current zoning as well. The proposed garage would serve as parking for the residents. The parcel is located on Springs Fireplace Road in East Hampton, it's Zone B residence. It's located within Groundwater Zone B. When there was a process where the application was initially reviewed by the planning board, and they met with how to best address issues outlined in the review. Most, if not all of those, were pretty much immediately addressed in the follow-up submittal, and it was determined that it was satisfactorily streamlined in line with the initial planning board review. All the matters were resolved, and it was deemed complete and ready to be scheduled for public hearing.
Thank you very much, Will. Appreciate it. Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard with respect to this application? Does the applicant wish to be heard with respect to this application?
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, I heard that. Public hearing is closed.
You jumped through that hoop.
6-0. There you go. Go ahead. Yeah, you're on your way. We don't need my permission, but you got it.
Well, I do.
I'll be happy to grant it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have.
State though.
Yeah, actually, it's probably a good idea.
I'm recusing myself on the next application.
But we still have a quorum, so we can continue with it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next matter and the final matter for tonight, we have a meeting next week, folks, just so you know. It's 219-221 Panago Road, and this is a preliminary. So Tina?
Hello.
Take it away.
Chair, thank you. I'm just going to pull up the site plan. Please give me 1 second. I just want to find where everything is.
No.
Sorry. Everybody's been waiting patiently. Thank you. This is a preliminary site plan application for 221 and 219 Panago Road. As you guys may know, this is right down the road from where we are currently, the site of Chris's Restaurant and an existing architecture office. So these two parcels here, we're here, over here, like off to the screen, and
We're not getting your
You need to share the screen.
oh,
So you might want to bring the microphone a little closer.
sorry, I'm asleep now. It's like it's late for me.
We're at odds and ends now.
Okay, so now you should see the GIS map that shows the two locations. That's 219 Panago Road, 221 Panago Road.
221 is the site of the existing Carissa's restaurant, and 219 is the site of an existing architecture office. So I'm going to show the site plan. As the chair indicated, this is a preliminary site plan application. So it's a one-time review for the board to review the concept. What you're seeing here is the existing plan for the two parcels. This is the existing Carissa's 221 and the existing architecture office with shed at the property next door. Here's the proposed site plan. The preliminary site plan did not include any information on landscaping or anything. It's really just focused on the buildings and the parking. So you can see the existing structure of Carissa's is not changing. The proposal is to build a new addition to the building by knocking down the existing architecture office and removing the shed. So this would be the footprint of that new structure. It would be 2 stories. Which you'll see there's some elevations at the end here. So the applicant has explained that the new structure would be 2 stories, 1,300 square foot basement, 1,400 square foot first floor, and 1,100 square foot second floor. And the proposed structure would be 23 feet in height to function as an addition to the existing restaurant. The new space in the restaurant would really be not to add additional seats or any new functions. In the applicant's narrative, they've explained that the purpose is to provide for additional staff workspace, expanded kitchen areas to alleviate crowding and inefficient design of the existing workspaces that they have. And on the second story, they would propose to provide a 3-bedroom apartment for staff housing to alleviate problems they have for their team to find affordable housing in the town. And the demolition, so you can see here, this is the breakdown of the first floor, and you can just see the space allocation. It's just kitchen, baking, office space, and the existing restaurant floor plan does not appear to be changing based on what we've been provided. The second story has a 3-bedroom apartment proposed. And here are the elevations. So you see here's the existing structure that's proposed to be demolished, and the proposed plan has a consistent architecture style and materials across the site, bringing some cohesion there. So I will leave up the site plan while I go through the review comments. Upon formal submission, the project would be a unlisted action under SECRA. So at that time, we would say that the planning board would request lead agency, but that's not going to occur now due to it's a preliminary site plan. Regarding the project description, in the materials, you'll see that the applicant made 2 submissions, one in August, one in September. The September submission clarified some of the points that we had discussed with the applicant in a site meeting. And so I'm going to refer to the September 23rd submission throughout the memo. As I referenced, the applicants indicated that there is no plan to expand restaurant services or new seats or production capacity. We would just advise that upon formal submission, we continue to review any possible changes in the use of the site, including catering, if they intend to add additional functions such as that, and just to understand what the anticipated hours of operation are, the number of employees, the total square footage of area allocated to each of the spaces, which they have provided, except for the basement. The basement programming hasn't been provided. We would like to understand what will be down there, because if it's not only mechanical storage or passageway, it needs to be counted in the building's overall gross floor area. Regarding the use on the site, the proposed project, as we said, includes the construction of staff housing on the second floor. And we're suggesting that that is going to require a special permit pursuant to 255-550 for apartments within commercial structures. In his review of the materials, member Michael Hansen noticed that they would actually require a variance from the zoning board because they're proposing 3 bedrooms instead of 2. And the apartments within commercial structure special permit is for two-bedroom apartments. So that's something that was in my memo that is applicable for this site. The other thing that the memo went through is just to discuss the dimensional conformance and variances regarding the proposed application. The application as proposed does improve certain nonconformities existing on these sites, but it doesn't fully resolve them all. So for lot area and lot width, the proposal addresses nonconformities that currently exist with either parcel. Lot coverage, it improves conditions with respect to the Carissa site, which is over coverage. I think it's at 82 when the requirements of the zone, which is NB 70. But overall, it will still be non-conforming with respect to coverage at 74% as proposed. So we are suggesting that the applicant look and see if they can find a way to bring it into compliance. The height is going to require a pyramid variance. The height is well below what is allowed in the NB zoning district, but it does need a period variance based on where it is on the site. And the side yard here, this variance, we are suggesting that there's a variance needed here because the applicant's proposing to maintain the existing setback of this western building, which is currently non-conforming, but because they're adding space and a story, it's enhancing that, the non-conforming nature of the building. With respect to site ingress and easements, the applicant indicated there's a right-of-way easement on the back of their lot. We just suggest when they submit the application, they submit that. We haven't been able to find it in our records. We did look. The next thing wanted to discuss was parking and site circulation. It is proposed that this site plan will add some spaces. Currently, Carissa's has 8 spaces. They are approved. Their CO for the site does approve the 8 spaces, but it's a 75-seat restaurant. So in terms of required parking, it's very inconsistent with what's required in the code. However, the proposal does improve that situation by providing an additional 8 spaces to what's currently on site. So we have a few comments with respect to the parking situation. The parking here, as we're talking about, is it's well understood to be inadequate. And it has resulted in the patrons of the site using adjacent parcels and the right-of-way easement in the rear of the property to park. The supplemental submission that the applicant provided indicated the applicant's trying to talk to neighboring properties to see if they can secure additional locations for site parking that would alleviate that situation. We thought that made a lot of sense and wanted to let the board know that those efforts are underway, and we hopefully hear more about those later. We suggest that we might want to consider signage on the site plan to, people kind of block this access way. It could be a dangerous condition. So no parking signs or other ways to discourage parking in areas where it's not appropriate should be considered. The applicant's narrative also referenced agreements with adjacent property owners for the parking of the residents that would be on the site. We wanted to hear more about that arrangement because the code does require that resident parking is provided. We were also asking for a more full understanding of the number of employees per shift because that is required to calculate full parking demand, just to understand, really what is the disconnect between what the site needs and what's actually being provided. And then we were talking about there's an accessible parking spot right in the front of the property. And typically our town code asks site plans to put the parking in the back, and when the parking's not able to be in the back, that at least be screened. So I think we should talk about what the board would like to see with respect to the frontage of the site. And I do have pictures of that I'll scroll to when I'm talking, because it is a so here, if you could see, This is what it looks like just from standing on 27 and the right of way. There's the accessible spot. There's a one regular parking stall, and there's kind of no screening. It's just very out in the open there. So it is accessible. I mean, it is appropriate for the accessible space to be located as close to the entryway as possible, right? So you do want to provide that access, but some other screening or some other reconfiguration we think makes sense to consider. And then upon formal submission, we just wanted to make sure that the dimensions of all access ways are, marked on the plans in compliance, just so we can ensure compliance with the town standards for the design of those features. And then a final note that if the proposed gross floor area exceeds 5,000 square feet, a truck parking space would be required per the code, and we would want to see where that would go, and then the navigation, make sure that there was turning radius, et cetera, provided, because we know the site is tight. Regarding stormwater drainage, there was no stormwater information provided, so the next section of the memo just references that compliance with Town of East Hampton standards, proof of such should be provided in the formal site plan, and that, if there's opportunities to reduce the pervious coverage, we support that, especially considering that they're not meeting the coverage for the zone currently. Regarding sanitary systems, no information was provided on that. However, we know that the site is within the zone 4, which allows a 600 GPD. As the 75-foot restaurant, even if they were an acre and they're not, they would be beyond the sanitary allowed for the site. With the 75 feet, it'd be 700 GPD per acre. So we would like to see those sanitary calculations, and the addition of the residential use, office space, and kitchen space could exacerbate that exceedance. So we suggest that contact with Suffolk County be made as soon as possible to discuss that issue and potential solutions. Regarding other approvals, there are several other agencies within the town that would need to approve the proposal. The Zoning Board of Appeals could be required for several issues: the side yard, the total lot coverage, pyramid law, and the 3-bedroom apartment. The fire marshal would have to look at the on-site buildings and the apartments within commercial structures, ARB for new buildings. We put DOT here in case there are any changes close to the right of way. The applicant should confer with DOT to make sure that they're not in DOT jurisdiction. And then Suffolk County if any changes to the IA system or the existing sanitary systems on site are proposed. The next sections just have some standard requirements regarding lighting. There was no lighting information on the site, so we did just include what would be required for a lighting plan and a landscaping plan upon formal submission, should the applicant proceed. And then, in conclusion, as a preliminary site plan application, the board is asked to review the general concept of the project, the addition of the affordable apartment and the expansion of the kitchen and other non-seating areas of the restaurant. It does appear that on-site parking and circulation, which are currently problematic, will be a primary issue for the board to consider. And they have been discussed in previous applications, as the board is aware. And, also considering kind of the potential for expansion of uses on the site, accessory functions such as pickup and catering, which may be part of the future business plan. And then upon formal submission, the board will ultimately have to determine if the site plan conforms with, section 255-6-60 of the town code, confirming that adequate access and interior traffic circulation and parking is sufficient to accommodate the proposed expansion.
That's it?
I just have one quick question about
Yeah,
the
sure.
parking. So what would the parking be if it was conforming? I mean, how many spaces would they actually need?
So to calculate the full, I think we also need the employees per shift.
Yeah.
But
just based on 75 seats. Mhm.
I don't know. Do you know it off the top of your head? Do anybody? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be about 30 spaces.
25.
Include staff.
Well, I mean, including staff maybe, but 25 for the 75. Okay. I was just curious how short you were there. Okay.
That's it?
I'm finished. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that very thorough and helpful report. Does the applicant wish to say anything? Submit.
Are
Are we able to submit additional documents for you all to look at now about the parking, or?
It's not, no, we don't take things at the even in a preliminary, because we need the planning department to vet whatever we might look at. You're certainly free to submit it, and when you file your formal application, you can put that in. But
yeah, no, I just wasn't sure. So I'm Alex Cooley. I am the architect on this project, and this is Lori Shema, who is the owner of Carissa's. Just a couple notes. Thank you, Tina, for the report, and Eric, and thank you to the board. So we understand that parking probably is going to be the big issue here, and so we wanted to give a little more background on that. And we should say that really we are here with this application first and foremost to try to help solve our parking problem, and that the expansion and the architectural scope is coming after that. This property was acquired by Lori in December of 2021 in order to secure the ability to have the additional parking. Carissa's, when it took over the property at 221 from the previous owner, was grandfathered in with the non-conforming 8 parking spaces. So they've been stuck with those 8, even though the seat count would ask for 25. So our hope with this expansion is that we can actually go from 8 to 16, and while we'll still be non-conforming, we will be doubling the extent of the parking that we have available on site. As Tina mentioned, we also are in talks with the neighboring properties about securing additional parking. To date, those have not been successful. The unfortunate reality here is that Carissa's is surrounded by a sea of parking, which is rarely utilized. The southern extent of the site is Panago Road. To the west is Point 72, which has 27 parking spaces, of which they use probably 2 or 3 each day. They have said they have no interest in allowing us to lease or acquire any of those spaces. To the east is the Panago Professional Center. They have 22 spaces that are also infrequently used. We've asked them if we could lease space from them. The answer again is no. To the rear of that site, you'll see there that forested area. We had also wondered whether there'd be an opportunity to create new parking there in addition to what they already have, and either locate it on the Panago Professional Center site, or perhaps locate a new right-of-way along the western bound of that site that could potentially actually serve as additional access to the new emergency department in the future, and whether that could go in and potentially serve parking on the healthcare foundation side. We heard from the owner of that property yesterday that they are not interested in any of these proposals, and part of the reason that they are not interested is that their attorney has advised them that they are in a limited business overlay, and so that they don't think the town would favorably look upon putting any business uses beyond 200 feet off the street frontage, which these new parking opportunities would be. In initial conversations with Tina and Eric, they expressed some amount of excitement about this opportunity and that it could be reasonable for all parties. So I guess we'd like to hear whether you all, at least not on behalf of the town, but on behalf of the planning board, think that there's something we could potentially work out with this neighbor in regards to that limited business overlay. Finally, the third property, which I know has come before the board in previous applications, is the one to the north, which is the healthcare foundation. Due to a series of misunderstandings over the years, parking has occurred sort of half in their property and half in the right-of-way that's on the northern bound of this site. And then the neighbor has decided to put up a fence to prohibit parking from happening on their property. Unfortunately, they're playing favorites a bit because they've allowed Smoking Wolf and Luigi's to continue parking there and have signs to say that their patrons can park there, but they are prohibiting parking from Carissa's patrons or from in front of Point 72. So we've made many attempts to try to come to an understanding with them, and it's, so far no success. So we're going to keep trying. We're going to try further afield, but we do feel that the application that you have in front of you, that in its doubling of our current capacity, is the best that we can actually do. Even if we were to demolish that building next to Carissa's, that site is not wide enough to allow more parking there. So we feel like we've maxed out the parking opportunities on this site. Just quickly to comment on some of the other issues that have been raised. Again, we're proposing absolutely no change to the use in the present day or in the future. We're not increasing capacity. We just need to have a little more elbow room for the staff to work. So we're expanding the kitchen spaces where today there are currently 3 restaurant functions, the kitchen, the prep area, and the baking area all sharing 2 spaces. This will afford the opportunity for each function to have its own space. There's also going to be a staff break room. Currently, there's nowhere for the staff to take a break or to eat lunch, and they actually wind up eating lunch in the parking lot, which is not ideal for anyone and unsafe. So we're proposing that front space become a staff break room and an office for the employees. We also are proposing the additional second story to provide staff housing, which we think is a benefit to us, is a benefit to the town, to everyone. So that's why we're adding that extra story. We are well below. We're at 25 feet, so 10 feet below what's allowable in the district. But we think that will be an advantage all around. So that's sort of where we stand, and we look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, can you put back the aerial? Because the forested area, you mean like next to the healthcare when you?
Correct. Yeah, just to the east.
So that empty space, as you're thinking.
Yeah, so that's like 400.
Make a parking lot there.
That's 400 feet deep, beyond the 200 feet that they have up front, which is where they believe they can put commercial activity.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns that?
Tintle.
Yeah. Who owns the building in the front that has the empty parking lot? Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Site. They own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we. All right.
So we had a proposal for a new lot here that could serve 26 cars.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a proposal for perhaps 12 spaces
break it,
here
you buy it.
that are served by an extension of this existing right of way.
Mm.
And then obviously there is the potential that parking could have happened there, but
well. Randy is the board member
Go
who's
ahead, Randy.
in assigned responsibility, so he'll lead us.
So let's start with the parking. Variance. I think it'd be possible to get a variance to put commercial parking, or possibly because you have a 2-bedroom apartment, you could put residential parking in there. I don't know. I mean, I would say from my point of view that is a very good idea, and that I'll speak for myself. I would like to work with you to try to make it possible for you to put parking in there.
To be clear, you're talking about the new spaces that we're proposing.
Behind Tintle. Yeah.
Oh, behind Tintle. Okay.
Yeah. And if, it does require some research into, I don't know if he has the right to put a house in there, and whether or not putting some parking in would interfere with that.
Are you saying the parking for the residents would be that far from the property?
So our understanding for the residential is that per the housing and community development regulations, we need one space for the 3. It's to be clear, it's one apartment with 3 bedrooms. So we believe we need one space, which we think presumably we can find a home, and we think it should be offsite for that space. And we also would just say that almost all of our employees at the moment bike to work. They don't have a car. So
yeah, because
we understand we have to meet the requirement, but
I was thinking, if I lived in that apartment and it was February in a blizzard, I'm going to park as close as I can to that stairway. Let's say I have groceries.
Yep.
That's the reality, is that people using the apartment are going to want convenient access. But back to the Tintle thing, there's a number of ways for that to become possible. Maybe a variance, maybe a zone change, maybe town acquisition. That parking in that area is not going to get any better. So I think working with the planning department, we should, continue to explore ways to have more commercial parking there. And of course, any arrangement you make with the neighbor could be subject to your ability to get permission to do it. They don't have to close the door because they don't think you can do it. They can, whatever. That's a business deal for you guys, but they could give you a year. For example, they could give you a year to get permission to do it. And if you don't, then the option is out, but something like that.
I guess one question for you all is, given how long something like this might take, and we'd like to do it, but are these two mutually exclusive? The application that we're doing now, which, as we understand it, and we don't think we need all the variances. We will need the pyramid and we will need the side yard. We'd propose that we would match the existing lot coverage and be no more non-conforming than it already is at 73%, to avoid the need for that variance. And I guess the question would be whether we need any sort of variance for parking relief, given that we're a pre-existing non-conforming and we're decreasing the degree of non-conformity. But we understand that even just for those two variances, that it's probably going to take us a year to get through the approvals process before we can even go to the Department of Building. So, I wonder whether we can get that underway and also pursue additional parking in the future, but whether they have to be linked seems problematic for us.
No, they don't.
Don't have to be linked.
They don't have to be linked. I think in reality, I understand that we're talking about going from 8 to 16, but we're also talking about the needs of, an apartment that wasn't there before. So some of the increased parking is going to be needed for employees and residents of the apartment. But all in all, I think what you're proposing is a good improvement. It's an improvement in the area. I'll just go through some of my other thoughts. The right of way, I believe the code requires that a right of way be subtracted. If it's the right of way is over a portion of your lot, I believe it has to be subtracted from lot area. So it's just a
correct.
Okay.
We've done that. Yeah.
Okay. The apartment is a special permit. So there's both a site plan and a special permit. You've already answered one of my questions, which is you're now the owner, so we don't need any other applicants. You own the entire site. I think an alternative system is required here because there's site plan approval. Am I wrong about that?
What do you mean by alternative system?
An alternative septic system.
So we've been working with Drew Bennett, and it's preliminary to this point, but what Drew had suggested might be helpful to the town is that typically you like to see kitchen waste separated from other sorts of waste, and that at the moment the restaurant bathrooms and the kitchen waste all go to a single septic system. And his proposal, which we don't have yet, but what he's suggesting is that we take the waste from the bathrooms and the waste from the new housing and use the existing septic system for that and create a new septic system beneath the new parking lot that serves the kitchen, and that we would have the capacity to do that, and that
the health department will be your main the people you have to please.
Yeah.
But we have a requirement that if you do certain amount of improvements in commercial districts, that you have to install a low nitrogen system, a new system. That would include I don't know if you're gonna split the water like that. It might include both systems. So
installed it when we renovated 221 Panago Road, Chris's.
Oh, you put in a low nitrogen already? Okay. Well, we'll see that when you add the sanitary to the site plan.
I mean, one question for you all relative to the sanitary, which we don't have quite an answer yet for, is that we previously were working with, well, I guess Drew had suggested this, and John Tarbett as well, who was previously on the file with us no longer, but that this merger that's going to take place happen not as a formal merger of the two parcels, but as a merger by covenant, such that the setbacks and the coverage and all of those restrictions instructions from the town would treat this as one parcel, but in the eyes of the health department, it's still two parcels such that we can keep the 600 gallons per day of flow that each parcel currently has, which would totally cover us for our loads. And we believe there was precedent for this at some property by the airport that was used for landscape details, but we have to track down whether, what the procedure might be for that. But that was the plan.
There's also another way you can go. There's a sewage credit bank for affordable housing where you can bring in a sewage credit. You have to buy them usually, or the town sells them, Eric, or they just for $1. If it's an affordable housing apartment, you might be able to solve your flow problem with that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
So I had some questions about the housing, which go to also the future of we're going to probably, I'm assuming for the moment that this referendum is going to pass in November, and we're going to get an affordable housing fund that has a dedicated.
Ever the optimist.
It's on the ballot.
And then we need to have close coordination with the housing office, especially in terms of our covenant language, because the way this is set up, a special permit is issued for the apartment, and then we attach covenants, or there'll be covenants required that say it has to be, administered to the housing office, and here's the income limits. And that's the way we've been doing it. Now, in this case, I think you've probably taken care of that by saying it's a 2-bedroom apartment.
It's a 3, which raises some questions.
No, they said they've changed it.
No, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment at the moment.
Oh, it's still 3.
And let me, if I could just,
Go ahead.
I have a question about that. It's intended to be housing for employees.
Correct.
But was it like multiple? It's not a family. It's how's it going to operate? If you put
yes, please, microphone.
We need you to be at the podium, and you need to tell us your name, which I know you've given already. But go ahead and do it again.
We have oh, I'm sorry. Am I here now? We have an extraordinary need for
your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lori, Lori Shemla, Chemla.
Thanks.
As most businesses here, as you know, we have an extraordinary need for housing. We do have a couple of rentals. We're not a business that loads them up. So each person who, is entitled to use any of our rentals has their own bedroom, not always their own bathroom. In this situation, we tried to design something that would permit a couple to reside in a larger bedroom, which is on the southern side of the upstairs, with its own bathroom. That would be a situation, for example, if we had a chef or someone who was married. That we realize that has also been difficult for us, that there are married couples and we just cannot house them because we only permit one person per bedroom, essentially, and our housing doesn't permit that. We don't have the number of bathrooms, for example, in these rentals that we have right now. And then the other 2 bedrooms would share 1 bathroom. So this helps maximize, and at the same time it gives everyone privacy. They would share a washer dryer, a living room, and a kitchen. So now below that is also Carissa. So you mentioned this, the possibility of there being a snowstorm and having to go out for groceries. You would actually just, open up Carissa's and go into the walk-in, So we're fortunate that you're living above a space that, has food.
Well,
I'm not saying, we would.
You don't serve steak, do you?
Yeah, sometimes. No.
I appreciate the
So, I mean,
utility of
right.
having all that food storage available. But, you know, I mean, Randy's point, it really kind of goes to more than just, you know, food. You might have to get food. I mean, anyone who lives in a place is not going to want to park, you know, 100 yards away, 40 yards away. It's a reality. They're going to park right where they live or near enough.
Well, we make our parking, because we're not a night business, our facility closes at 3:00.
Yeah, no.
And so our employees right now are parking at the baseball field, those who have cars. And they generally move their cars to our parking lot until they leave. And so our employees would be permitted to, you know, to use our parking lot overnight. We only need those parking spaces for customers from 8:30 in the morning until we close at 3.
You know, I mean, that goes to a whole other, and it's something we should discuss in the time we have left, is the way in which you intend to operate. Is it going to change significantly? Because, you know, the parking is the center. I don't want to step on your presentation. If I do, tell me, then I'll step right off. But the parking is really where it's all at. But that ties into what you service you're selling. You know, if you're serving food for people to come in, drive out, like, say, Smoking Wolf, you know, drive in, buy your food, and take off. That's a different set of parking needs than if people are coming in, sitting down, having lunch, and then leaving. And the two uses can collide. And in the very limited amount of parking that you have now, you know, I would expect that it's creating problems, which is what's motivating this application, or one of the things that's motivating the application. So where do you see it going? Where do you see?
We don't plan to change our business model at all. This is to expand our back of house, which is right now too tight. We don't have sufficient walk-in space. This would give us additional walk-in space that's needed. Presently, we put a walk-in box outside, which takes up one parking spot, and it's unsightly, and that would eliminate that, you know, that need. But we have no intention now or in the future to ever do catering or to expand beyond what we do right now.
You covenant to that?
Yes.
Well, to answer some of Tina's questions, the hours are not changing at all, and the number of employees are also not proposed to change.
Let me just also, and then
I want to finish with the housing
Go
stuff.
ahead. Do what you're doing.
Okay.
I want to get to something else.
Well, this is Nancy partly thinking out loud that the town's application for an apartment above a commercial use really envisions a family. You know, they key it to the income limits for families of certain sizes. And I think with these this type of housing, and we have another application in from a stonemason who wants to build his own. It raises a couple of questions for the administration of the housing program. One is what happens when it's not a family, when it's three individual people, or three individual people who are living there. And then there's also this whole question about selection of people. Normally in the town housing programs, there's a lottery and then you get evaluated. In this case, it's an employer building specifically to house their employees, so they're not going to want a lottery. So I think, excuse me, I think maybe we need to have Tom Rule come in and talk about what sort of covenant and what sort of review process and what sort of, you know, the town form requires an annual renewal of the affordable apartment and a certification that the tenants meet the income requirements. So and Tina suggested that you guys need to talk to them, but I think we need to talk to them too, because we're issuing the special permit. We're probably going to get more of these, and we need to know what the covenants should say about.
Didn't we do the apartment though for that furniture store? I mean, they had that garage with an apartment above, and they were just going to house an employee there. I don't think it was, I think owners of the property have the prerogative to rent it.
To their own
That's
folks.
not the way, that's not the way it's written.
No, I think the idea of affordable housing is, you build your facility and you add an apartment and you get benefits from the town for doing that. But it doesn't mean that you're, and again, this is not a criticism, it's just, the reality of what the law is.
Have to go to the lottery.
It doesn't have to go to the
I
lottery?
don't think so. I mean, it has to be restricted in what they can charge.
But is the intention?
No, yeah.
This is why Randy's probably right. We should probably have somebody from
Yeah.
the town, from the housing authority, explain things to us, because are we in the business of giving housing or planning for housing that is not meant for the public that's supposed to be the beneficiary of affordable housing, or are we in the business?
What about the apartments? What about the apartments in Montauk that we just approved over that one business store?
That's supposed to go through the housing office.
I mean, I understood that they were just restricted in what they could charge.
No,
That's what I've
if you
heard.
read
Yeah.
the section,
Mhm.
and we haven't always implemented it correctly, we haven't always covenanted it. If you read the special permit section, it's clear that it's going to go through the housing office for certification of the tenant on an annual basis, and they have to make a certain amount of income. Now, I think part of the housing solution here is for employers like Carissa's or like the Stonemason to be part of the solution. I mean, they're renting housing now. The Ross School rents all kinds of houses to operate. So maybe it needs some code revision.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Is there a distinction in the affordable housing office as to staff housing versus?
So I just have one comment, and I've done some of this research for my own property. If I build a detached apartment, I can rent it to whomever I want, but they need to, fall within this income level, right? So if there's someone, I'm not going to rent it to someone I don't want in there. I'm going to rent it to someone I do want, but they have to meet these specifications.
I think the housing office has to.
Yeah, the housing office, sure, they will
It's not
evaluate.
lottery. My point is, it doesn't go to
No, it's
lottery.
not lottery.
No, it doesn't go to lottery.
Okay.
It's not lottery.
And I just wonder how much is different from commercial structures versus something
It
on
is
my
different.
property.
It's
Yeah.
a different code section about
Mhm.
detached accessory apartment or attached accessory apartment and apartment over commercial use. They're all different.
Is the intention that the apartment over commercial use is to be rented or prioritized for the folks
Yes.
who work in the place?
No.
And in the
it's
code
not
right here,
really.
it says moderate income families. Apartment, this is the code that was in our document. Number 1, all dwelling units created shall be for the use of and available to moderate income families who are certified, blah, blah, blah.
I have to tell you what moderate income is in this
I
town.
know.
Well, they
That's
listen.
another-
175.
That's up
Hey,
to
listen,
their.
I think we need to fine tune this so that it works for you and it works for the affordable housing program.
And that it complies with the affordable housing.
To your earlier question about a family versus an individual. And Lori can speak to the other properties that she leases or owns that are for staff housing. But I mean, part of what we're doing here is affording some amount of flexibility whereby we could, if the town would prefer to see it that way, put singles in these apartments and then have actually a home or a small cottage for the family. So, because it's potentially this apartment as well as other properties, we have some play there.
Yeah, I think it's your I think in general, the town wants to work with what you're trying to do. And it should work where your employees could live up there. Right now, for example, we have code section that says not more than 4 unrelated individuals can live in a single family home, right? And yet we're saying that you can't have more than 2 bedrooms in an apartment. There's a lot of I think we need to have a dialogue with the planning department, the housing office, and also not hold you guys up. Let me
It's
see.
almost a separate issue. I mean, it's because you're not the first. The Mason, that one jumped to mind.
Mason, Montauk.
Yeah, Montauk.
Had 2 apartments.
I think we missed a covenant on one, and the housing office told us. It was before you, Nancy. But so the whole merger question has come up before. I think we're going to have to talk more about that it's a way for you to keep your 1,200 gallons a day. But if you sell the lots separately, kind of all bets are off.
Well, the buildings will be conjoined, so
probably wouldn't happen.
I don't think.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Who's ever talking, they need to go to the podium.
Okay. All right. So it needs more attention. We need to figure out whether the sewage credit route or the don't formally merge the lots. Are they in the same ownership now?
Yes.
Because they may have already merged. Once they're in the same record ownership and
that happens.
You guys should check that.
Okay.
I think you can unmerge them with the zoning board. But,
in a year.
It's one of those things that I think happens by operational law.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you have
Like if
different
something's
owners.
upzoned or something, the lots will merge.
Yeah,
You know.
we've run into that many times, and so you might want
So we need to look at that.
Eric.
Do you mind? Yeah, just very quickly. The whole concept of that merger by covenant is something that we'll need to look into more. And, we certainly will do upon formal submission, but it was kind of a new term and concept that I believe I know for myself and also I believe for Nancy. So we'll have to look into it a little more.
We did find something via health department covenant. Okay. They did it, but that was kind of, that might have been a unique case. We'd have to look into it more.
Yep.
I thought Tina did an excellent job. I've said I think she's a great hire, and I'll say it again. She really, really did a thorough, great job, and I think covered. I think, in your own interest, if you can avoid variances by reducing total coverage to 70, you'll do yourself a favor.
And things will move more quickly for you, probably.
If we were to match the existing at 73.
Well, we can't give you legal advice. So,
okay.
Well, but you're going to need the pyramid anyways.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
And the side yards.
That's true.
So if you're going for the pyramid, then
then you're going to have the time. So
you want to talk
and you're probably going to have to go for parking variance, right? I mean, is that or not?
Is that what the whole objective?
Again, it's not increasing the nonconformity, so I don't see what we would be applying for.
Yeah, is that true, Eric?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good. That's good for you guys.
My understanding, just of the and as Tina outlined in her memo, the previous site plan required 8 parking spaces. They're increasing it, so even though they're by virtue of the fact of adding the apartment, they're increasing the parking requirement. They're proposing more than that previously existing. So I don't believe they would need a variance for parking. But again, upon formal, we'll dig in a little more. But I'm pretty sure they wouldn't.
Interpretation. Okay, I'm gonna.
That's right.
The basement is a big deal because
storage. And we will keep, to that point, we'll also keep under 5,000 square feet in GFA to avoid the truck loading scenario.
Yeah.
So
that's a killer, that one. Okay.
I had a question. I'm trying to remember from having been there. The sidewalk on the side, is that a flat? Is there stone there? Is the sidewalk a stone?
On Panago Road?
No. Between the parking lot, your entrance is on the side.
Correct.
It's
That's concrete. That's a concrete walk.
All concrete.
It sits within a crushed stone bed, but there is a 4 foot wide concrete path.
Okay, the question I had is, thank you, that's the picture I was looking for. You have the ADA parking is strictly in the front. And I'm just wondering about the ability to negotiate from the ADA spot to the side entrance. It seems like it's a kind of narrow and sharp. It's a narrow path with a sharp turn. And again, I'm not an engineer.
So
I'm wondering if there's something that can be done to ameliorate what I believe. And again, I haven't.
So behind that bush is a ramp.
Yeah.
So
that door.
If you flip to the site plan, there's an indication of the existing condition.
And if somebody's coming in, right, you see.
Right.
My concern is right there. That's a real sharp turn. Again, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to opine about whether or not it's negotiable, but easily negotiated by perhaps someone in a wheelchair. But it seems like an awful lot of twisting and turning to get from the ADA spots to the side entrance, and also. If you're coming in from 27, you almost have to run through the problem with this drawing is tell me if I'm wrong, but if I'm coming in from 27, let's say I'm coming from the east, I have to go over your neighbor's property to get to the back, or am I
correct?
When I park in back, I can't go directly through your front entrance to do it, right? Well, okay, which is probably, yeah. So
correct.
So the access that folks who are getting to your back has to be through a different property.
Yes.
What are you gonna do about that?
Well, there's a right of way there that affords us access to our right of way in the back. So,
all right, but I just remember pulling into the handicap spot, realizing I can't get,
and then you had to
there,
make a U-turn,
and I have to back out into 27, and then back down 27 a few feet, and then come back through the right of way.
The site leaves a lot to be desired for circulation. It leaves a lot to be desired for circulation.
Okay, I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, we're talking about buildings built before zoning.
Oh, I know. No, I'm aware of that. What I'm getting at though is, you're going through this whole process here, and that strikes me as something that you really need to, focus on. Please go right ahead.
During the renovation, we looked at this very carefully because we realized that it was problematic. But we're really limited because ADA requires that the parking be as close to the entrance as possible. So we could not use the back parking lot. There is also, because of the change of elevation from the back parking lot, there are stairs. The ramp was the elevation created a ramp that would have been too pitched. There really is, we're just stuck. I agree with you. It's not ideal, but we looked at it from various points of view, and there just was nothing that we could do to make it better other than, keep it clean. And
you have clients in wheelchairs really who come in and buy bread or sit in the restaurant. I mean, what's your experience with the functionality of it?
In 4 years since we've been open, I've never had one person in a wheelchair. But what we did do is we made the back garden accessible so that if you were in a wheelchair and you felt that it was difficult to get in through the building and you wanted to sit in the garden, we made that area and cleaned that whole front area up from what it was before when it was Momi or Smoking Wolf. So you can easily access the garden.
Could you bring the picture up? the front, the picture of 27.
Oh, wait, hold on. It's here. Which one of these?
Just something that shows the ability to get from, yeah, that's close.
Mhm.
The shrubbery, does that get in the way of wheelchair access?
No. No, because there's an opening. So we cleaned this up, this whole space here, so that you can get through here, and there's a wide opening to the.
Oh, and that's how you get, okay, all right, all right.
And then this is van accessible, and this is a small ramp. It's not pitched very high into our main door.
And there's no stone on that. That's
No, not at all.
pure red. Okay.
No.
All right. Okay. All right.
In fact, this access to the garden we left without stone so that it could be accessible to a wheelchair. We thought about that when we were renovating the building.
You know, it's come up in other applications with the issue and it's really an ADA thing, that the entranceway should be have the least impediment.
Well, this is a pretty new renovation,
Oh, it
so
is,
this
yeah.
must have been.
Oh, yeah, no. This is not
must have been
another
scrutinized.
applicant that one could be,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
thinking about in terms of
Yeah.
where's the handicap, the ADA access going to go.
Mhm.
All right. It's getting kind of late. So Lou,
Yeah.
you have anything?
Yeah, I do actually.
Please go ahead.
There's several issues that I wanted to go over. They were all covered, but I just wanted to give my point of view on it. First of all, I just want to make sure I understand the sanitary calculation maneuver that you suggested. So this merger by covenant, is it correct to say that if you were to combine these two properties into one, there would be a 600 a gallon per day cap, but because you do a merger by covenant, you basically for the health department purposes, you have two buildings that have 600 gallons per day for each building. So you have 1,200 gallons per day cap. Is that the way?
That's our understanding. Yes.
Okay. So I guess I don't have a problem with that because that was one of the issues that I had because you were going over the cap just on the 75 seats formula on the building. You would be at 750 gallons per day, whereas the maximum is 600. But what you're doing is you're taking advantage of that other property, which is not a restaurant. It's not as in the same intensive use, sanitary use as the restaurant. So I guess it is okay to do that kind of thing, but nevertheless, we still need to find out if that's feasible. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that. The other problem I had is the lot coverage. And again, by the way, overall, I think, I'm in favor of this project. I think it's a smart looking establishment. I think it's a plus, an asset to the community. So I want to see it work. But despite all that, or nevertheless, I still want to make sure that the give backs or the give ups is not on the town's part or on the code's part, but more on your part. I mean, there's no reason why we need to fold or relax some of these standards because, this is what you would like to do. And again, I'm all for what you're trying to do, and I understand what you're trying to do, and I support it wholeheartedly. But it's just a matter of, going so far that we need to relax some of these standards, I'd rather that, if it's possible, that you relax some of your requirements as to what you want to do. And that goes to the more specifically to the coverage. I mean, if you can get it down to 74%, why can't you get it down?
So we can look at I'm happy to take another look at that. Our understanding is that if you consider the two lots in aggregate today, even though they are separate, that the total lot coverage would be at 73%, where 70 is allowable. We can look at shrinking it down. However, I believe that the reality of where that's going to be, given the existing conditions of the site, is going to be in the parking lot. So we've got the dimension there. You know, we need at a minimum, I believe, either an 18 or a 20-foot parking space on either side, and then at a minimum for comfortable turnaround, 24 feet. And I don't know off the top of my head where we are, but we're pretty close to that. So if we start shrinking that to meet lot coverage, then we're going to look at either creating, you know, a less flexible parking area or potentially even losing parking. So we will take another pass and see if we can get to 70, but that's my fear with that one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again, we won't propose exceeding what's already there for sure. We will match the 73 at a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to look or seem as though I'm a stickler, 73 versus 70. But yeah, I think it is an important issue because it does affect drainage. And I think drainage is very important. And, I don't want to die by 1,000 cuts where we give up a little here and give up a little there. And cumulatively, we create a major problem. So anyway, I understand what you're doing there, which brings me to the next issue, which, there's been a lot of discussion about, which is the parking. So the parking, is woefully deficient. And I understand that it's grandfathered in and, with regard to what's already allowed or what's already in pre-existing non-conforming, you're doing even better than that. But that's all well and good. But the problem is, and I, by the way, I enjoy going to your establishment. So I've had experience with the parking, and it is woefully deficient. So, and I also am empathetic to the fact that you're trying to do as much as you can to correct that, and I know you want to correct it more than anybody. So, I think we really, all of us, the planning department and whoever else can help out, should really get, and the town board even, should really make a very strong effort to make some kind of arrangement. I don't want to go over again the ones that we spoke of, but if we can get that done, I think it's imperative that we get that done. So,
without going too long here, what's the vehicle by which that happens?
Eric.
What was that, Randy?
Eric Chance.
I was referring to our able staff.
Challenges relate to our neighborhood, unfortunately.
I just have one question.
I want to it's 9:15, so
We had tried-
I haven't had a chance for Eric, for Michael or Sharon to chime in, so please.
Just very quickly, I think that Alex explained that a little bit of the situation, but we have tried to speak to our neighbors, to work with our neighbors. We tried to make some more parking area in the back of the property that actually allotted us 8 more parking spots, which was taken away by the East Hampton Medical Center. A fence has been put up, no parking signs have been put there. It does choke that back area. Unfortunately, they are immovable. Eric and I have spoken about it, and he understands what those issues were, and that's unfortunate. Previously, this was a pizza place, it was a catering place, it was a barbecue place, and then it was a ramen noodle place. And when I moved into this neighborhood, I never expected that I would have this parking issue. I think that it was much more porous. The neighborhood was friendlier, and they have not been to Carissa's. If you go to the back, you'll see that there's a space cut out for both parking, for Smoking Wolf and for Luigi's. If we were afforded that same benefit, it would allow for 5 more parking spots within, somewhat within the right of way, but without, it would, prevent the choking that is happening, particularly when you turn the corner and you're trying to get into our parking lot and you're looking to see if there's a spot. People were pulling up to the side in parallel parking or moving into this little cutout that we created. That we really tried to make it more accessible and to make it safer in the back. This new fence with the parking signs has really made it, hazardous, and it has, taken away the possibility of those 8 spots. And so to go further, we've spoken to both Tintle and we've spoken to the head of the board of the East Hampton Medical Foundation and appealed to them to help us with the parking. We continue to do so, but we haven't been successful.
Michael, then Sharon, and then we'll wrap up.
You kind of answered several of my questions, but I have one for the architect and the two of you. Where exactly is the East Hampton Healthcare Center allowing Luigi and Smoking Wolf to park?
So it's here. The fence that has been put up only runs from this property line.
So parallel to that fence?
Parallel here to this fence, sort of half in the right of way and half in their property.
So that's not really illegal parking, is it?
No, it's in the right of way. It's a private right of way that's shared by these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, but you're not supposed to park in it. It's for ingress and egress.
Okay.
So it's still passable, but it's no longer 20 feet.
And point 72, they're not going to budge?
No, that was a definitive no from point 7.
Parking lot, no, but they're willing to allow us to, well, we'd have to remove the fence, but they would allow us that extra space for 2 or 3 cars to parallel park behind their building.
Okay.
They were opposed to the fence, and we've had discussions with them, and they're amenable to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I mean, I think overall, this will be an improvement. It's just you have to work out the details. I think everybody has covered everything, and we've been asking the questions going back and forth, so I don't have a lot more to add.
This is a preliminary reviews. The idea is to give you a sense of where the board is. Look, you could put in your application and find that we've looked at it a little more carefully, and maybe we don't, our opinion is refined. You may put in the application and say, well, we heard the board, but we can't do it that way, and you come in with something else. But the idea here is to give you some guidance, and I hope you've gotten that tonight.
We have. Thank you.
All right. Tina, again, thank you for that really thorough report. I believe that that's going to help you more than almost anything else that you may have heard, except for what Randy said.
Well, just because Eric interacts with the town board, planning board, and zoning board, he's actually a good person to think about the parking off-site, that kind of.
You got your work cut out for you.
And it would help everybody in that whole space. I mean, I have to say, I don't really go there because of the parking. I'm happy you opened up in Sag Harbor. It's perfect.
It has actually co-opted some of the traffic. I mean, really surprisingly, we've been looking at the numbers. And so I do think it will help.
Yeah, the parking in Sag Harbor is very easy.
And I heard that from a lot of people, which saddens me.
Yeah.
It ain't 66 Newtown Lane. In out.
66, we had to close. But we can't find staff. I would love to.
No, I know. I'm.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a it's a wistful mention.
For the film festival, that, I mean, we really suffered because we were just short all around.
Yeah.
I'm working, my managers are working, I mean, we can't find staff.
That's a bigger question.
Of course, eliminates.
Vote yes on Prop 3.
All right. And with that political note, all right, we're gonna, we have nothing else. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
No, well,
No interruptions, yeah, that's good.
if it had been, maybe if it had been a catered affair, we might have. No, I'm not, for the record, I'm not suggesting that. All right.
You'll be surprised how many people watch this on TV.
Yeah, I know. You will.
I was just kidding.
Yeah, and so was I. So
I meant-
it's 9:20 in the evening. Let's wrap it up. Can I get a motion? Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Lou, is there a
Yeah,
second?
I
There
second.
you go. All right, all those in favor? We're adjourned. See you next week. Thank you again. And Matt, thank you for the very, very tough work tonight. It's
You are
appreciated.
very, very, very welcome.
Thanks, Matt.